housekeeping matters. If anybody is signed on to the meeting who wishes to speak, just make certain that you're unmuted so we can hear you, and just speak up whatever you want to, and we'll try to address you. If you can, when you are speaking, if you can identify who you are so we can keep accurate records of who's talking, that'll be very helpful. Linda, if you go ahead and give us roll call.
Mr. Hoover.
Here.
Mr. Colvin.
Here.
Mr. Rutherford.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. The minutes of the regular session of April 20, 2020 have been distributed to members of the, or any corrections, additions, or deletions from staff. Seeing none, is there a motion for approval?
I'd move that we approve the minutes. Second.
Mr. Colvin moved and seconded by Mr. Rutherford. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Chief Loud, have you called in?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. John, you're up. You've got a, what would you like for us to address?
Yes, I do, please. This is John Lott, Greenwood Police Chief. I'm requesting signatory authority to sign the Memorandum of Understanding with LexisNexis and CopLogic Solutions. This is a continuation of an ongoing agreement we have with them to process with the Indiana State Police our accident reports.
This is simply, you said a continuation of things we've been doing doing for your department in the past, correct?
That is correct.
Any questions for Chief Loud?
This isn't a question. This is Sam Hodson. The legal would request that if the board approves this, which we expect it to approve it, that it be subject to review by the legal department because we have not reviewed that contract.
Okay.
I'll move to accept it with review by the legal department.
And authorize the chief to sign. I'll second that.
Moved by Mr. Rutherford, seconded by Mr. Colvin. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
You're up.
Yeah, Kenny Duncan, Street Superintendent. I'm needing to get a hot mix supplier for hot asphalt for this year. And I had 4 people bid.
John Lott
has left the meeting.
I need to read these numbers off to you, correct?
Yes, please.
Okay. Off EMB on 9.5 millimeter HMA asphalt. They were at $58. Harding Group was at $52.50. Milestone was at $53.25. Keith Riley was at $67.58. Okay, 12.5 millimeter hot asphalt binder, intermediate. EMB was $58. Harding Group was $50.50. Milestone, $51.50. Reith Riley, $51.97. Then you got the 19 millimeter asphalt binder, and EMB was $52.75. Harding was $48.50. Milestone was $48.50. Reith Riley, $47.82. 25 asphalt base. EMB was $49.75. Harding was $47. Milestone was $46. And Reith Riley was $47.57. Then I went to the coal patch. EMB was $130 a ton. Harding Group, no bid. Milestone, $126. Reith Riley, $138. then one of the questions I had on there is asphalt I take out of the roadway or grindings. Is there a fee for me disposing of that? Milestone and Reith Riley had no fee, but the Harding Group was $85, and EMB they didn't have a place for me to get rid of it. So we have several loads of old asphalt we get rid of during the year. We've already got rid of, 3 to 6 triaxles. So at $85 a load would add up pretty quick. With that in mind, I'd like to go with Milestone. Provide me the asphalt. Just have Reith Riley as a backup.
Kenny, this is Kevin Hoover. I know if that was permitted to have a backup, and I don't
know if it is or not. I just know we have off quotes in case the plant was broke down and somebody wasn't running a material. I haven't reached out to anybody they have in the past. I don't even know that.
Kevin, this is Sam.
Yes. Yes.
We're not allowed to approve backups, but if our primary contractor doesn't run into problems, there are statutes that allows us to do that, but it isn't appropriate for the board to approve a backup contractor under the state's bidding process.
Okay. Thank you. That was the answer we were looking for. So go ahead.
This is Jeff Colvin. Kenny, what are these prices compared to last year? Did they go up pretty much, or have you seen it kind of stable from what last year's bid was?
Well, I think I really didn't look at that, Jeff, but I think they're pretty close in line. The only thing one thing I want the board to know too is if in January when one of these plants open up, when they're providing a hot asphalt at that time, you pay a premium for it. When the state asks them to open up, it'll be a different price than this. It's a different material, but yeah, they're not far off. And I think they're pretty close.
Okay. Thanks, Kenny.
You'd think with the price of oil being low, that the prices be any more than they were last year.
Yeah, I think a lot of that's going back up though. So they try to factor it over the year.
So, as you noted in some of your communications with us, Harding had a slightly lower bid than Milestone, but when you factor in the cost for hauling away the old asphalt, they are more than Milestone. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So would you believe, is it your request that Milestone be granted the contract as
Yes.
responsive and responsible aggregate bidder?
Yes.
Okay.
I'd still have to go there to get coal patch anyway.
Is there a motion to that effect or any further discussion we want to undertake?
I would move that we award the contract to Milestone.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Colvin, seconded by Mr. Rutherford. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Ken.
Thank you.
Next, we're going to move on to Mr. Richard Smith. I believe Mr. Smith is online. Is that correct?
I'm right here. Yes, on video.
We're at 1289 Vista Way, lot 189. Mr. Smith has got an encroachment request. And just tell us what you want to do.
Yeah, so we're just looking to add a fence. It's going to be really similar to all the homes around us. It'll be a black aluminum 48-inch fence, which is standard for our neighborhood. And as you can tell from the survey in front of you there on the screen, if you're able to see it, most of my property on the west side and on the south side is all utility easement. And so I'm just looking to encroach into that for the west side and for a little bit in the back side of the property. I know on the encroachment request memorandum that I received from the Board of Public Works, on number 2 here, they mentioned that located no closer than 5 feet from the existing storm sewer. So as you can see on the west side, there is a storm sewer line that runs through, and then on the back property line, there is also a storm sewer drain. We will be well within 5 feet on the back. One of the things that I would ask, is there any leeway on 5 feet from the west side? Just because as you look at the aerial view, that sewer line kind of angles in, and so 5 feet from the house wouldn't be a problem near the home, but I think I would cut through part of my landscaping bed there if I had 5 feet all the way down to the sewer line. So I was just wondering if there was any possible negotiation there on terms of how many feet. If I could go 3.5 feet, that would be acceptable versus the full 5. As I assume that the full 5 feet is to be conservative to ensure no damage to that line.
Well, I think that's true. Mr. Johnson, what's your position on this?
I think Mr. Smith has definitely hit the nail right on the head in terms of our reason and justification for going with 5 feet. It's certainly the board's option if you want to reduce that down. I think he mentioned 3.5 feet. I think we have done similar distances with other encroachment requests in the past for unique situations. And he does have some landscaping there, so that seems like a pretty good justification. So I would support that if that's what the board wanted to do.
And Mr. Smith, you think 3.5 feet could you do that? 3 feet, half feet?
I think 3.5 sufficient. So as I've measured on the southwest side of the home there, we originally planned for 9 feet out. That gives us about 2.5 feet from our property line. I could certainly come in 1 or 2 feet there and take it all the way straight down perpendicular there or parallel with the sewer line. I'm good with that. It's just 5 feet. I think it's gonna cause it to chop over a little bit in that landscaping.
And you understand that one of the other conditions was that the stormwater department be notified following you getting the fence up, so they can come out and make certain there hasn't been any damage to that, correct?
Yes, sir. Yep, that is correct. And they are anticipating being able to do installation Monday, Tuesday of next week. And so I would have intended to contact stormwater directly thereafter.
Okay. Before I turn to the other board members, is there anyone else who's joined the meeting who would like to speak on this matter, either for or against? Haven't not heard anybody. If there's, what's the pleasure of the board?
I'd move for approval with that number 2 condition being 3.5 feet.
And all 5 conditions.
All 5 conditions, but with that one changed.
And can I ask the board, apologize if I'm interrupting anything, but is 3.5 feet still a safe distance?
Well, I think that's Mr. Johnston. I mean, we think 5 feet is a safer distance, but Mr. opined that he thought it would be okay on 3.5 feet, but until to get out there, it's hard to tell. You're not terribly deep into this line down there, so I wouldn't think there'd be too much of a problem.
Okay, great.
Does your neighbor to the west have a fence? It appears that they do.
They do.
And it appears to be probably 5 feet off, if not more, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So there's plenty of room to get a piece of equipment in there if you stay 3 feet.
Yes, certainly.
I would second the motion for approval.
Okay, Mr. Rutherford moved, Mr. Colvin seconded. Further discussion? Seeing all in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Good luck. Next, we'll move to Mr. Moore. I saw him there. Are you there, Mr. Moore?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me okay?
I can. 2514 BOBOLINK Court, another encroachment request. And we have graphics up in front of us. Tell us what you want to do, Mr. Moore.
Well, we want to put a standard 40-inch fence, PVC white, around the backyard of the home. As far as the drawing and the fence company is concerned, we're 5 feet away from the drain, the stormwater drain there. So we're currently about 3 weeks out because they have to order material as far as building, but we will notify the department, the water department, the stormwater department, excuse me, upon completion.
Mr. Smith, I gather that you received a copy of the encroachment request memo from Brock Sears dated April 27th.
Yeah, was this for Mr. Moore? I'm sorry.
Yeah, that has the 5 conditions,
Yes, sir.
and you're okay with all of those.
Yes, we are.
Is there anyone else from the who's joined the meeting who would wish to address this request either positively or negatively? Hearing none, is there a motion from the board members?
I would move that we approve the request contingent upon the items outlined in Mr. Sears' report, the conditions.
I'll second that.
Motion by Mr. Colvin, seconded by Mr. Rutherford. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Moore.
Thank you. May I drop off now, or?
You certainly can. You're welcome to stay, but we understand it's not terribly exciting.
Thank you very much, folks.
Next, we're looking to talk to Mr. Shaw, 856 Kelly Pass. Shaw, are you online?
Hey, I am here. Can you hear me properly? I'm here.
Okay, we can hear you. Tell us what you'd like to do.
First of all, thank you for allowing me to present my fans request on the board meeting. So I live at 8856 Kelly Pass, and I'm looking forward to install a shadow box 6 feet tall fence in my backyard, and the shadow box as per the HOA recommendation and HOA requirement, and my fence on the backyard toward the northern side. As per the request, it shows it goes on the drainage easement. So I got an email from the engineering company that if I can follow the 3 conditions, then it should be okay. One of the reasons I want to do the fence, that is, we have pet animals from our neighbors, 2 or 3 neighbors, and they do not have properly take care of them, and they come to our backyard, and my daughter plays in the backyard, and almost she was attacked by 2 times. And there are many neighbors in my line, in my community, in the same on Kelly Pass, and they have fence which goes to the same dimension which I mentioned on my property plan, in the same alignment.
Okay. Ask you the same question I asked the other gentleman on their request. Did you receive a copy of a memo from Brock Sears from the city dated May 1st with some conditions on
Yes.
this? Okay. There's 3 conditions that they noted. Do you have any concerns or issues with any of those conditions?
No, I'm okay with those conditions.
Okay.
Mr. Hoover, this is Daniel, the city engineer. I have one
Yes.
item. We've looked at this, and so there on the north side, and it is in the graphic, the blue line that does identify there is a buried subsurface drain, essentially a 6-inch plastic pipe that's conveying sump water, most likely. So actually, Mr. Shaw, if I would also suggest a similar offset from that location so that the fence doesn't impact.
Okay.
And since this is it's a smaller pipe, We could probably go with a 2-foot separation between your fence and that under drain. And so that would be an additional recommendation for the board's
Sure.
consideration.
Just on that, what is that, the north side?
Correct. Just
Okay. So 2 feet away from the pipe toward my house, that's where my fence should end. That's what the recommendation is, isn't it?
correct. Yes, that is
Okay.
the.
Okay. Sure. So
Daniel, do we-
I will do that one.
Okay. Angel, do we need to send anybody out from the city to, after he's got the fence completed, just to make certain that everything is okay?
Not necessarily in this case. That won't be needed. That pipe should be encased in stone, gravel, so it'll be identifiable,
Okay.
avoidable.
Okay. Is there anyone else who has joined the meeting that would like to address this issue of this encroachment request? Hearing none, is
For
there?
approval.
That's Mr. Moving for approval, subject to the now 4 conditions.
Yes.
Second.
Mr. Colvin second, and just to confirm that the 4th condition is that the fence on the north side stay at least 2 feet off of the under drain line.
Yes.
Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Shaw.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. The next encroachment request is by Jason Bent, and I saw Mr. Bent on here.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. We've got a graphic for 1273 Tuscany in front of us. Tell us what you want to do.
Yeah, we're just wanting to install a 6-foot white PVC fence, as you can see on the boundary, and then the neighbor to our west already has an existing fence, and it'll be following the same line that the neighbor has as based off our HOA. I did receive the email from Mr. Sears, and I'm aware of the 3 stipulations. There are no drains. There's nothing in our backyard. Really just seeking approval for the fence itself.
You're taking all my questions away.
I'm lucky to be the last one.
Is there anybody who has joined this meeting who wishes to address in addition to what Mr. Bent has provided? Well, seeing none, what's the motion from the board?
I'll move for approval. Go ahead, Jeff.
Okay. I would move to approve, subject to the conditions in Mr. Sears' report.
Second.
Mr. Colvin moved, Mr. Rutherford seconded for approval. All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Bent.
Thank you.
Now, under our normal request to have anybody from the audience who wish to address, is there anybody who's joined the meeting who's not necessarily on the agenda but would like to address the board? Hearing none, we'll move to Mr. Hodson with the IDM compliance plan status update.
The IDM semi-monthly report has been filed and all is well with IDM.
Good news. Sam, you're up for your status of task.
First up is the Title VI report. Shauna Coons is the city's Title VI coordinator. She solicited information from every department and compiled the annual report. The action item on this is the legal department requests acknowledgement of the acceptance of the report so it can be filed.
I'll move for that acknowledgement. Is there a second?
Second.
Is that Mr. Colvin?
Shan.
Mr. Rutherford. Moved by Hoover, seconded by Mr. Rutherford. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Next up is a right of entry for a Vectrum gas line for the DPW building. This is a right of entry on an easement that you've already approved. because the state process for granting an easement includes appraisals and all sorts of nonsense that it's going to take several weeks to complete. In order to keep the project moving, we need to enter into a right of entry so we can have gas service and get the building completed. The action items I'm requesting is for you to ratify the right of entry with Vectron for installation of gas line executed by the mayor, and also to authorize the city to move forward with all actions necessary to convey the easement that you've already approved, and approve the mayor to sign the easement when it's ready to be conveyed.
Any other questions for Sam? Is there a motion?
So moved. It's Mr. Colvin.
Mr. Colvin moved, Mr. Rutherford second. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Next up is another easement, easement for a city project, and this is with Johnson County REMC, and they need to have an easement over property for that's going to go through where our new softball diamonds are going to be at the I-65 Wurstville Road exit. We have two action items. We need to we're requesting ratification of an appraisal engagement letter with Valbridge Property Advisors, like the last easement, to allow the city to go forward with all acts necessary to convey the easement to bring utility service to our new park, and authorize the mayor to sign.
Move for approval.
Okay.
Second.
Mr. Rutherford moves, second by Mr. Colvin. For discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously.
Next up is a consideration of a public works contract, and this is a contract to use part of the land acquired for the new fire station 93 to construct a salt barn. This contract was provided to you for two free pad buildings, a loader storage building at a cost not to exceed $31,350, and a salt storage building not to exceed $98,550, including alternatives of $3,600. The action item is we're requesting approval of the Board of Public Works contract and authorizing the mayor or deputy mayor to sign on the board's behalf.
Sam, one question. You gave some not to exceed numbers. If I'm looking at this contract right, and I may be misreading it, I just like the contract price was $126,300, which is the aggregate of those two numbers you gave us.
The aggregate of the two numbers is actually a little bit higher than the contract to allow us some flexibility.
Okay. Would you mind stating those numbers again, just so it's clear in the record?
$31,350 for the loader storage building, $98,550 for the
Salt storage
building.
Okay. Further questions for Mr. Hodson?
Yeah, are we replacing the salt storage barn that we currently have?
No, this is to have a facility on the west side of town, so we don't have to take our trucks all the way across town in a snow event.
And you may have mentioned this, but would there also be a fueling station there?
No.
Okay. Other questions?
As an aside, that road's going to have to be redone. Get fire trucks and salt trucks on there, and then where it comes out there on Avery, there's even one car there. A fire truck cannot make a turn coming off of
Hudson.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, and maybe Daniel, you could weigh in on this as well. We had a complaint, may have been a couple of years ago, about the intersection of Cutsinger and Everett. About that maybe doing a roundabout there or something. I think what they wanted was a three or four-way stop. I think we were going to look at that for a potential future roundabout. I don't know if that was ever lumped in with the Worsville Road reconstruction, since it's very close to that roundabout that we'd be constructing on Worsville and Averett. You're muted though, Daniel.
On the Averett and Cutzinger intersection, make that a three-way stop. The traffic flows, the existing traffic flows, really don't support that. Actually, the difference between the two flows actually would make the situation on Averett actually worse, just because it is higher volume. Those vehicles would have to wait for the cars turning out of cut, and it would create potentially create issues and traffic queuing.
It will need to be widened somewhat just for fire trucks to make that turn with, if there's even one car there, which there is almost all the time. I go through there several times a day, right across from the church, and it's people line up back there. And then I just think if there's a car sitting there trying to get out on Averett or cross Averett, fire truck's gonna have a hard time.
Certainly, Mr. Rutherford, the city is looking into potential improvements along Cutzinger.
Good.
You don't think it would qualify for a roundabout at that location? I agree. I would not want to see a three-way stop.
Well, it could a roundabout option could be investigated. I'd have to double check. That may have been potentially envisioned as a future alternative at the city's most recent traffic study. Typically, they'll look at both a one-way stop or a roundabout option. But that is as far as it went at that time. There would certainly be other considerations in that area.
I think if it was widened anyway, so cars could at least pull off to the side to let a fire truck pass through.
Okay.
I know. I think everybody, yes, Mr. Rutherford, we definitely understand the issue that you're referring to with the fire trucks. Definitely, the city's looking at options of what can be done. Certainly, with the current financial situation, certainly, we're seeing what can be done.
Thank you.
Unless I've missed something, I think we have a second motion on the floor for the Greystone Construction Public Works contract. Is that correct?
I do not show that we have a motion or second yet.
This-
I'll move for approval.
Mr. Rutherford moves for approval.
I'll second.
Mr. Colvin seconded. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Thank you for that clarification, Amanda.
Thank you.
Still up.
Next up is a contract with NASB Construction for site work for the salt barn that you just approved. The lowest responsive and responsible quote was NASB Construction, the amount of $112,942. We are requesting that the Board of Works approve the NASB contract and authorize the mayor or deputy mayor to sign on the board's behalf.
So moved.
Second.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Next up is the Corporation Council Agreement with Taft, Stettinius, and Hollister. This is the agreement where my firm provides corporation counsel service to the city of Greenwood for a flat fee of $2,000 a month. This contract expired in December 31st, 2019, and we neglected to get it extended. We're requesting that the board approve amendment to the agreement retroactive to January 1st, 2020, and to authorize the mayor or the deputy mayor to sign on the board's behalf.
Questions for Mr. Hodson?
that mean you don't get paid going back
No,
to
that
December?
means that I do get paid. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I know. I'm
That's the
kidding.
retroactive to January 1 problem. I've already asked
Yeah.
that question.
Yeah, yeah. I'll move for approval.
Second.
Jeff, second that. Mr. Ruffin, move for approval. Second by Mr. Sullivan. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Next up is consideration of a contract for services with Reliable Construction. This is for the fuel farm located at 333 West Washington Street. This is an unusual contract in that the city required that the supplies and equipment installation be done by the same firm. Kevin Steinmetz, the city's capital projects manager, did the investigation and represented that the Reliable Construction Services is the only turnkey provider installer of fuel tank and accessory equipment, which includes removal of the existing fuel tanks, which meets the city's needs. The request we're making is that the board make a finding that the fuel tank accessory equipment, tank removal, installation service, including site restoration, in the amount of $570,000, $570,580 is a single source special purchase to authorize the special purchase, to approve the contract with Reliable Construction Services, and to authorize the mayor or deputy mayor to sign on the board's behalf.
So moved.
Second.
Further discussion, under further discussion. So Sam, we're one document we have to consider is the determination of that, and then the other one is to approve the contract, or are you there yet?
I put them together, but yeah, there are two things that have to be done. You're right.
Okay.
Mr. Hoover, this is Greg Wright. Could I also ask that the board, if you were to approve this, increase the budget and the sanitation utility for the cost of that?
In the amount of $570, $570,580.
Yes, please.
Well, let's do the other the determination and the contract, those jointly. Is there a motion to approve those two actions?
Yeah, I'd already made that motion.
Okay.
Mr. Colvin.
I'll second.
Mr. Rutherford, second. Further discussion on those two motions? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those motions pass unanimously. And Greg, what are you exactly wanting us to increase the budget?
The capital outlays budget for the sanitation utility for the cost of the fuel farm contract.
Motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Colvin, seconded. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Actually, Mr. Rutherford seconded.
Okay. You guys are starting to sound alike. I'm sorry about
You
that.
do. I've noticed that.
Snakes travel in pairs.
At least you can make that as a lawyer, Jeff. So
Sorry about that.
Okay, so do turtle doves, so you could go with that one.
Oh, that's
There you
better.
go. Yeah. Hey, Sam, you're still up.
My last item is ratification of a professional services agreements with the Taylor Chad law firm, and we're employing them to do condemnation on Worsville Road, Section 2. The request is ratification of the engagement letter and addendum with the Taylor Chad firm, which has already been signed by Mayor Myers.
Motion for ratification.
I'll move for approval.
Has Mr. Rutherford moved for approval?
I'll second it.
Jeff Colvin seconded. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously.
Sam, did you skip that office furniture thing?
Oh, yes, we did skip that. And the reason for that was this was originally considered because these furniture is being used by several departments. as several acquisitions, which brought them under the threshold for soliciting bids. But because we're buying them in one purchase from the same vendor, to be safe, we decided to solicit additional bids to comply with the state statute.
That's fine.
Mr. Johnson, your status of test.
All right. Good evening. I've got 5 items on the agenda plus 4 very quick walk-on items at the end. My first item, Horseville Road, Section 2. This is ratification of the condemnation for parcels. This ties in with what Sam just had what you just approved. There before you in the memo are the 5 parcels that are currently that will be going through the condemnation process. We had to, since the project has a November, had to proceed with this. And so now we are asking the board to ratify.
Question for you, Mr. Daniel. If we proceed with authorizing the condemnation proceeding, that doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be resolved in that manner. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes. Just that it is going into that process.
Questions for Daniel? Is there a motion to ratify these condemnation of these parcels, these proceedings?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Colvin?
Yes.
Is that a second by Mr. Rutherford?
Yes.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously.
My next item is the 2020 annual paving project. We had the bid letting last Friday, and we evaluated the bids. You can see on screen a map showing the base bid locations, that being Brewer, Fairview Drive South, and Kearney Street. That'll actually wrap up work that we've been working in that neighborhood for the last few years. In the memo, you can see about halfway down the listing of base bid, alternate 1 and alternate number 3, our engineer's estimate, but also the Baumgartner and Company. That was their bid. They were the low bidders. I think one item that I have to point out, all the bids were reviewed, and the legal department reviewed the low bid as well for proper form of content. They did find all items were in order except for 2 minor errors. That being that Baumgartner had actually flip-flopped their bid numbers, and so from second page of a bid to the first page, they on 2 alternates they flip-flopped their numbers, and so we confirmed that with them, their actual numbers of what their intent was. And so our request or our requested motion to you would be to waive the minor clerical errors made on alternates bid 1 and 3, then to award the contract for base bid, alternate bid 1 and bid 3 to Baumgartner and Company Asphalt Services as the lowest responsive and responsible bidder for this project, and authorize the mayor to sign the contract on the board's behalf.
Subject to available funding being finalized by Mr. Wright's office.
We have already identified the funding in a budget, and this falls within that budget.
Okay. Is there a motion?
I'll move for approval.
Mr. Rutherford moved.
I'll second.
Mr. Colvin seconded. Under discussion, I have a question about the flip-flopping of the bids. I recognize you've talked with them, Daniel, but is that documented someplace so there's no question in the future?
We can certainly get that. It was actually Paul Pioni that had the call. We can check if there was an email, or certainly ask them to provide us confirmation if that is what you would like. Do that?
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Other discussion? Is there somebody wishing to speak?
Hold on. I
think we lost Amanda.
iPad, and I missed the whole conversation on this subject. So I was trying to log on my phone.
Okay.
Now I'm echoing, so please bear with me.
Okay. Are you available? I could maybe repeat what's going on. Is that okay?
Okay.
Mr. Rutherford moved for approval.
Okay.
Mr. Colvin seconded it.
I missed the discussion as to what your question was and what Daniel responded with.
Certainly. The question was the flip-flopping by Baumgartner of their bids. While we have an understanding with them, I would be more comfortable, and I think the other board members echo that if that would be confirmed in writing with Baumgartner.
Okay.
Make certain that took place.
Okay. So we awarded to Baumgartner with the condition of the new letter. Okay. All right. I'm good to go. We can move
Okay.
forward.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Okay.
All right, my third item is our professional service agreement with John Bartolo. He's been a contract employee for the city since January 6th as a staff engineer in our department. He had a 120-day period contract, which actually was going to then extend or expire on the 5th, May 5th, so this past, or just yesterday. And so to ensure that we carried him through the end of this week, we wanted to proceed with extending that contract. And so we are asking for the board to ratify and authorize the mayor's signature on the board's behalf for an extension of the professional service agreement with John Bartolo for professional engineering services for an additional 3 days, and through and including May 8th, 2020, this Friday. Side note, Mr. Bartolo will actually come on board next Monday as a full-time employee with the city.
So this is just to cover the gap here, correct?
Correct. Correct.
I'll move for ratify that authorization of the mayor.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Colvin, moved by Mr. Hoover. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
And passes unanimously.
Next item, 484 North Madison Avenue. This is, they had a parking lot expansion project. This is actually requesting the board to authorize the mayor or deputy mayor to sign on the board's behalf an operation and maintenance manual for water quality so that it can be recorded at the Johnson County Recorder's Office for the project.
So moved.
Second.
Hoover moved. Was that Mr. Rutherford?
Yes.
Mr. Rutherford seconded. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Next item is our 2020 PASER update. The PASER system is what the city uses to evaluate all of its various streets and the conditions of those streets to help us plan and track our asset management plan for our pavement. It's been 2 years since our last update, so we are looking to use the First Group Engineering for the update this year. So we have received their scope and fee. You have that information there in front of you. Our motion would be to authorize the staff to prepare the professional service agreement between the board and First Group Engineering, and to authorize the mayor to sign on the board's behalf for this project. Subject to, there's 2 conditions. One, available funding that has also been found identified. And then also preparation of professional service agreement with the police department, coordination with mayor's office. And
So Daniel, you're not requesting a fixed exceed $31,000 because that may be modified after legal mayor's office and your office does some final work.
there's that potential, yes. So that it would the maximum.
You want that flexibility. Okay. Second motion. Well, I'll make that motion then.
I'll second.
Second and further discussion. Seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion passes. Walk-ons?
Yes, I have 4 walk-ons. They are all related to stormwater operations and maintenance manuals. The first is for the Speedway Fuel Center over in the Preston South Business Center location. This is near intersection of Main and Graham. Stormwater Department has reviewed the O&M manual for water quality and found it in order. So they are asking the board to authorize the mayor and deputy mayor to sign the O&M manual on the board's behalf so that it can be recorded for this project.
Daniel, can I question? You've got four of these with 4 different sites. Looks like the motions are virtually identical. Can we just go through and Sam, are you okay if we can approve it all as once?
Yes.
Okay. So we've talked about we've talked about Speedway Fuel Center. What's the second one then, Daniel?
The second one is Project Brew. This is over in the Worsville Commerce Center, roughly in the same area as the Amazon facility.
Okay. And then Project Elk?
Project Elk is actually to the immediate south of Project Brew, side-by-side projects along Collins Road.
Okay. And then the last one, the Amazon?
And then the third one is the Amazon facility at Greenwood Park at 65.
So you're asking for motions on each of those for authorize the mayor or deputy mayor to execute the O&M manuals. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Is there such a motion, gentlemen?
So moved.
Mr. Colvin moved. Mr. Rutherford second. And further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you for letting us do it that way.
And that's all I have.
Okay, great. Thank you, Daniel. Have a good evening. Anything from you?
Nothing.
Mr. Wright, nothing? Well, it looks like it's time for Mr. Rutherford.
I'll move for approval of the claims.
I'll second that.
Mr. Colvin seconded Mr. Rutherford's motion. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Okay.
Has left the meeting.
If there's nothing else for the good of the cause, we'll stand adjourned at.
One more quick thing.
Okay.
You could send an email requesting the change of your first meeting in June from June 1st to June 3rd. If we could just get a quick motion so I can send out an official notice.
Colleen Evans has left the meeting.
I raised that, Shannon, Jeff, because, we recently did the Wednesday night, the meeting tonight because the election was scheduled for yesterday. And then now we've got our Monday meeting in June is the day before the election. So I don't know whether we should move it to Wednesday. Didn't the council meet last Monday of this week?
The council moved theirs this week, yes. We did not request it this time due to CDS having the bid projects happening that you had tonight on your agenda for consideration, the timeline and the publication dates. They needed to keep the meeting on tonight. However, the council did move their June meeting to the day after the election now. If you want to stay on the same schedule.
Well, really we try to stay on the same schedule to eliminate additional work for staff having to be 2 different nights. So would there be a motion to move our June meeting from the 1st to the 3rd. Is that correct, Amanda?
That is correct.
Okay. Is that what you guys want to do?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I'll make that motion.
Storage.
I'll second.
Moved by Mr. Colvin, seconded by Mr. Rutherford. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. So, man, if you'll take care of sending out the appropriate notices.
Well, I'll let you adjourn, then I have one more thing.
Okay. We'll adjourn now at 6:26 p.m.
Your signables this time, I am having to work remotely, so I will email you tomorrow once I coordinate with my